I'm Amy, sex educator, sex and relationship coach, and co-owner of PurePleasureShop.com.
I'm April, VP of the cutting-edge sex toy company Hot Octopus, and I dedicate my life to the business of sex.
We are on a mission to teach you how to have hot sex, deep intimacy, and how to make your own rules for who you are as a sexual being.
Welcome to the Shameless Sex Revolution.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.
You are listening to a pleasure podcast. For more from our sex podcast collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Well, hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody out there.
Welcome to the Shameless Sex Podcast, episode 5 million, I'm not sure. This episode is with Monica Jayne. We just loved her. We were like, your work is amazing.
Yeah, we've recorded so many podcasts
that you're like,
I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
But I do recall it being a great show. All of our shows are awesome. I learn something every single time we record.
Well, and this is one of the most common sex questions we have is like, well, how do I know what I want and how do I ask for it? It's just so, like, everyone wants to know. There's not everyone, but most people want to know. And it's a scary thing to explore. A lot of people don't even know what they want. They have no idea how to convey it. It's really frightening. And am I going to say it wrong? Is it going to be rejected? She has a lot of really wonderful insight, and I just loved her. I will warn that the audio in it, remember her, was it her headphones? Oh, no, that was someone else.
See, we recorded so many, I don't remember. I don't either.
All right. We'll see. I don't know if the audio is not perfect in this one. Sorry, it's not our standard, but I think this one was actually okay. It was someone else who recorded that same day that we're like, yeah, anyways, we have been recording up a storm over here at Shameless Sex Headquarters.
We're busy bunnies.
Lord mercy. Real quick, a couple plugs. You all have heard us talk about Hot Source Yoga. We love them. We can't go right now because we can't do hot yoga in person, and I am dying inside a little bit every day. I have a sauna. I'm like, maybe I'll do yoga in there, but it's tiny, and it's like 200 degrees in there versus the 100-degree room that I love.
They have online, though. You can pay per class.
Yeah, they're doing it online. It's only $5 per class. If you go to hotsourceyoga.com, you can learn more. Is it Hot Source Yoga Studio? I should probably look that up. But they're also offering a teacher training coming up. Yeah, hotsourceyogastudio.com. This teacher training is a 40-hour training. If you have a lot of time on your hands, and especially if you're already in the world of yoga, it's the Psychodynamics of Yoga 40-hour online training. Starts May 4th to May 11th. You'll learn all about creating the container. You'll learn an intro to shadow work in yoga, about how to do some personal development and money mindset and regarding your business from the heart, and then also trauma resolution in yoga, recovery, all kinds of things. So go check that out if you want to deepen your yoga knowledge, and it's all online.
Yeah.
Safety of your own home. And Nicole Huliza is amazing. She's such a great instructor.
Her.
She's incredible. She's so inspirational.
And this is such a hard time right now for a lot of folks out there, and it's good to support our actually the people that were doing great work before in yoga and mindfulness and coaching. So I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, let's go check that out.
Doing.
If you're interested, we're going to read a sex question in a minute. We also want to tell you about someone that is not a sponsor of ours, but we are absolutely in love with their products. They sent us some samples. It's Intimo Pleasurables. They're based in Canada.
And she was a fan.
Yeah,
and she said that,
fan.
Yeah, we were part of her inspiration to create this beautiful line. Yes. And I used, it's not just lube. I use the period. It's like a period oil to help with pelvic floor.
Pelvic pain.
Not pelvic pain. Yeah, pelvic pain, not pelvic floor.
Yeah.
But I put it on because
you get cramps and things.
Yeah, and it really did help. You use it a couple days before, and we split the care package.
Like, you
so
get this, I get this.
Yeah.
I tried the one that actually I gave you that I loved. It's the Smooth Operator lubricant. It's water-based lubricant, and it has how do I say this? Hyaluronic acid and aloe vera, and hyaluronic.
I use that on my face too.
Yeah, it's supposed to be increased pleasure and to decrease pain during sex, and it's also just really good, like hydrating for your skin. But it's rose scented and flavored. I'm obsessed with rose, and it's hard for me to find a water-based lube that I like. I really like that one. It's very silky, so you can use it with all sex toys. They also have a really nice massage oil. They have oil-based lube. So go check it out.
And it's 100% plant-based.
Yes, 100% plant-based. They use a lot of organic ingredients. And a portion from every sale goes to free sex ed that they offer both in person and online. Well, probably not in person right now. So they're doing really great things. And we say go support them. Go check them out. And Intimo Pleasurables on Instagram. You can stay up to date on workshops. A lot of those are free. And you can ask sex questions, etc. And they have a promo code. What's the promo code, Chip?
If you go to Intimo Pleasurables, that's INTAMO Pleasurables. I don't want to spell the whole thing. You'll figure it out. You enter the code Shameless Sex, and you'll get 15% off any purchase that you make just for being a listener. Mm-hmm. That is a plug because we love them. Yep. And I'm loving the products, actually. It's because I really do. And thank you for sending that. If you're listening,
you're all
thank
awesome.
you, Intamo.
Oh, wow. I just realized that their plant-based massage oil is infused with cannabis sativa, hemp seed.
I did
hemp seed oil.
see that. Yes, I did see that. But I think it's not.
It's just the hemp seed oil.
It's not the psychoactive parts.
I love this.
You're not going to get high.
All right, I'm not
Amy's getting high on the CB. No, on the cannabis. On the cannabis. She's drinking it.
It's good.
The massage oil.
All right, you ready for a sex question?
Yeah.
All right. I'm not going to drink the massage oil. I'll just stick to the wine. Okay, here we go. I would describe myself as vanilla, and my fiance is the opposite. I was raised in the church and taught sex is bad and felt a lot of shame and protection of myself and sexuality. Now that I'm almost 30 and engaged to an amazing and very experienced man, I want to turn things around. I want to be a sex goddess. I've been starting to open up more and talk about what I like, porn, fantasies, things I want to try. I have never even kissed a girl, which apparently is shocking. I would love some advice as to what I can do to continue opening up and being more sexually confident. Neither of us are into role play. He said he has put me on a pedestal and is afraid to ask me to do anything he wants that could be more wild. He thinks I'm too delicate. Meanwhile, I want all of it. He also has a very stressful job and comes home in unpleasant moods and is overstressed. I would love to surprise him with lingerie or have sexy plans, but I know he would just bat me away. Side note, he has some erectile dysfunction and that has cut him off from trying things and sometimes sex altogether. There are several things there, but I'm really working hard and I would love a little boost.
Ooh.
Multifaceted question.
A lot of questions. I'll just share a real quick piece that came up for me while you were reading this question because I'm sure you'll have some great insight, as you always do, Ms. Baldwin. I think, okay, it sounds like you want all the things, and there's a lot of maybe you want to swallow the entire world, right? I think find what you want, and then have an experiential weekly new tryout thing and explain to your partner what you're wanting to try. I know the delicate pedestal thing, hopefully they can see through that and just work with you on exploring, because that is something that they're going to have, he's going to have to do with you, because you're obviously wanting all of this awesome new sexual experiences. So I think focus, like take it to a level of you don't have to get a solid direction. I just think maybe some bullet points of what you want to try in an order, right? So it's not just I want it all, because that sounds great. I think maybe just slow it down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And as far as the erectile issues, that's like it could be the heady
stress. Yes. There's a lot of stress there too. Yeah. I mean, erectile issues are so more often related to emotional stuff than it is the actual body. So if this person is running home stressed all the time, erections don't often happen during stress because there's a lot of hormones in the body that aren't really erection friendly during that. So that's stress management probably on his own. And it could be other things too. It's probably a lot of self-care and, like you said, less headiness. What I find really interesting about this, so she's vanilla and her fiance is the opposite. But when she's talking about, so he's very experienced, but she's all these things that she wants to try and he's a no.
So that's why I was confused, because I don't see her as vanilla at all. Who is it? Eve Manex, she said
she doesn't like the term vanilla.
She doesn't like vanilla because there's like no such thing. Everybody does.
She's like, it puts you in a category, in a box. Yeah. So, but she's essentially saying he's like this wild person, but he put me in this, and I want to try all these things, but he's a no because he put me on the pedestal. The pedestal is very interesting to me. This happens a lot where you go on this pedestal, someone puts you on a pedestal because you almost like you're their mommy, like, your mommy's not sexualized, or they put you in that, like,
a different
purity
category.
Yeah. But then they can go, like, they go watch wild porn elsewhere because, like, they've separated them. And so for me, I'm like,
You're totally right.
So your partner is the wild, highly experienced one, but you're like, I want to try all these wild things. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that with you. So this is a conversation to have. Obviously, he said he put you on a pedestal. You need to get off that fucking pedestal because that pedestal is not sexy. It doesn't feel sexy for you. Maybe it feels nice to be taken care of on there, but it's not sexy for you. It's not sexualized for your partner. And so there's some work around that on how he's viewing you. And how to start to view you in a different way. And part of that is from exploring these different things. And he'll have to notice what comes up as you start to explore things. And all of a sudden this thought comes up of, why you shouldn't be the sexualized being, but you want to be this. You are this. So there's a cycle here. And there's individual work, I think, for him to go and do on his thing about putting you on a pedestal, on his thing about being really stressed and sex being kind of on the back burner, and the rejection piece. You've experienced a lot of rejection.
And the lingerie, where she said she
wants
would love to surprise him with lingerie, but
she feels like she's going to get rejected.
Yeah, so I'm curious as to why. Because
she's not supposed to be.
Is he afraid he's going to taint her if she wears the lingerie? And
could be, or to him, she's not sexualized, right? So she wears lingerie, and to him, like, no, you're like my pure good girl.
Ooh, what if she came out in a construction costume and was like, "Hey, I'm not on a pedestal. I'm a badass. Here's my screwdriver.
I'm gonna knock myself." You know who this would be a good question for?
Who?
Kristen.
Tribby from Fun Factory.
She would be so good at this because she comes up with all those ways. Ours for
the
me,
recipes. Yeah.
For me, it's much more like have the conversation about this because there's some work to do here. And it's not going to be an overnight thing. He can't just take you off the pedestal overnight where he just convinces himself that you're not this thing that he's been viewing you as, not this thing, but this type of person. But through experiences and practice and his own awareness, hopefully he can reframe that and see you in a different light because you are a sexual being. He's just not seeing you that way.
I would like to add one more piece. I think if you can talk with him after what Amy said, there is some pedestal work and kind of some shifting that needs to happen. I think setting aside time, like a new exploration night once a week that you can check off your little bucket list of sexual fantasies that you've wanted to explore and kind of obviously have a pre-negotiation and conversation with him about that. And that could be a great way to explore, and both parties have to enter into the situation, the intimate exchange evening of exploration, we can call it. Yeah. It doesn't flow. That's not our marketing term for that. But you could Trademark. Go in with an open mind and open heart, but both parties would need to agree to that. Yeah. And then there's no batting away. There's just exploration. And there doesn't have to even be a destination. It doesn't have to be penetrative sex, or it can just be exploring. And
I love that. And try a different thing. Okay, tonight we're going to explore this thing. I'm going to wear lingerie. Let's just see how this feels. Like you said, no goals, and let's check in along the way. Like, what's coming up through this? Is he starting to kind of like shut down? What's happening in his body? And maybe you two can work through that process together, as opposed to it just happening. Yeah. But being more clear. Like, these are my desires. This is who I feel like inside, what I want to be, and how I want to be viewed. And here's some practices I'd like us to try to see what feels good. And you might find some of them do and some of them don't.
And you know what you could do if you need some direction right now, listener that asked this question? Go on our website, shamelesssex.com, sign up for a newsletter, and we'll send you 50 sexy, fun tips and tricks for spicing it up with your partner and things to try and do. Yeah. So that could be the first step.
Totally.
And you can share it with him and ask him if there's anything on there that stands out for him to try.
This is also common for people who have kids. This happens a lot. Like the woman bears the children, and all of a sudden now she's mommy and she's not sexualized, either by herself or by her partner. So this is a common thing for people to work with, and it's totally workable. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
I love that question. All right, y'all, we're almost going to get into the interview. Yes, but first let's learn about Monica Jayne. Monica Jayne is a leader of unabashed self-expression, a mentor of true internal freedom, a coach of authentic communication and speaking up, and an educator of erotic liberation. She has been a six-figure exec in a male-dominated industry, earned over 5,000 hours of continuing education and teaching yoga theory and philosophy for accredited collegiate institutions, and is an expert in communication, authenticity, vulnerability, relationships, sex, and intimacy. She's a certified erotic blueprint coach, with certifications in queer competency and sexological bodywork forthcoming. Monica Jayne catalyzes evolution in all facets of your being, evoking your permission to speak up and be unabashedly you. To learn more, go to monicajayne.com. I'm going to spell it for you. MONICAJAYNE.com. And by the way, she is a certified erotic blueprint coach through Jaya, who's been on our show. Amazing.
I think it's episode 126.
Yes.
So good.
And this is a great episode.
She's incredible.
She's really great. So are you ready?
Did she say she studied with Brene Brown?
She
something?
did, yes.
I don't remember if that was in the bio, but yeah.
Not. She's really a wonderful human being.
Dog.
Sorry, she almost dropped Perry on me. Oh.
Dogs. Okay, we gotta go. Let's start the podcast.
All right.
Bye. All right.
I want a few breaths, though. This has been a little frazzly.
Yeah, I know. Geez.
I know.
Yeah, let's get those breaths in there. I appreciated is it a YouTube or something video that I saw when you were setting up the mic and it was kind of stressful and you were in front of this audience and you really like tended to yourself and what you needed. And then actually that's what I saw that and I was like, oh, she's coming on her show.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I mean, like 3 minutes into that or something, I used that as a teaching moment. I said, this is an example of someone when they claim space and ask for their needs to be met, they can show up as their full self rather than their half self or their annoyed self or their unfulfilled self. So I'm happy you recognize that, and I do feel I'm glad you told me that because people who understand that are my people, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you value that.
Yeah, you could recognize the alignment there, and I keep doing this on shows where someone shares something that I think is really a great intro into what we're talking about. And so then I just throw it at them that we're recording now and we're going to start the podcast with that. Instead of just being like, hey, everyone, we're going to start the podcast. We're going to start with that piece, I think, because that again, I think that really resonates here. And so I'd like to invite you, as we do with all of our guests, to start by sharing your journey. How did you get to be in this work today in the field of human sexuality?
Well, if you had 17 days, I could fill them. But to bullet point my journey, I grew up Catholic in a Mormon town on the border of Wyoming and Utah. So sex, arousal, turn on, sexuality was not something that we learned about, and it was a forbidden topic. So I went the way of the prude, and some people go, the way of the quote unquote slut. And I don't condone that word or call them sluts, but I went the way of the prude. So I did not learn anything. And when I was 28 years old, I had 10 years of penetrative sexual experience, 14 years of fooling around. And I was sitting at my mother's deathbed. And she was said to have 60 to 90 days, but it was apparent in like 2 days that she would be gone in a couple more. It was kind of like the movie Wild, where her mom just like up and dies all of a sudden and is supposed to be around. So when I saw that, I started freaking out because I hadn't had an orgasm and I didn't know what that meant or how to fix it. And so I debated whether or not to ask my mom at her deathbed about it. And I was 28 and said to myself, that's a lot of life to live, wondering what would have happened had I asked. And if I do ask and it embarrasses her or disgraces her, she can say no and I'll just deal with that. So I said all of that to my mom. And then she said, what's the question? And I said, have you ever had an orgasm? And she looked around the room and said to me, I don't know. And I took a breath and I said, what do you mean you don't know? Because this was my mom and she was going to die in a couple of days and I needed to know what the heck I was missing out on. So we ended up having a conversation, and at the end of it, she said, it was our first conversation ever about sex. And at the end, she said, if I had it to do over again, I would be more open and adventurous sexually. this from my mom, who covered my eyes when we were watching the nighttime movie on ABC or NBC or whatever from 8 to 10 p.m. on a school night. If it got too sexy, she'd cover my eyes. If it got too noisy, she'd cover my eyes and my ears. And she's here telling me if I had it to do over again, I'd be more open and adventurous sexually. And what I realized from that was permission. I had hers. And from there, the last 10 years, I've set out to really put to practice all of the things that I had discovered in those 14 years of frustration from reading books but not taking any action, learning intellectually, but never embodying it. And I went on this path in women's groups and all kinds of stuff. I've traveled to over 25 countries, 5 continents, attending BDSM clubs, sex clubs, workshops, munches through FetLife, studying with lots of teachers, and all, including teachers outside of sexuality, like Brene Brown. I studied one-on-one with Brene Brown, with Jaya Ma, with Alison Armstrong, just learning what it means to enjoy our eroticism. And I've come up with a really awesome theory on what I believe arousal and turn-on is. Maybe we'll have a moment to talk about that too.
That's an incredible story, Monica Jayne. Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Brene Brown, actually, we've referenced her all the time on the show because she helped me through such a, not personally, just her work has helped me through some really dark times in my life. And that's incredible that you've studied one-on-one with her. So our next question here is a really good one. It's why is it that so many people don't speak up for their needs and desires? I'd love to hear your take on that.
So the basic number one reason I believe is because we're not in touch with ourselves. We don't know what we want and we don't give ourselves permission. So basically I don't want to speak for everyone because I know, that's not kosher, but just for general sake, for the sake of this and not taking up time explaining, I'm not talking for everyone. I'm going to use we and us from here on out, or people. So we are subscribing, whether we're conscious of it or not, all of us, at least once a day, are subscribing to familial, religious, social, and cultural conditioning, prescriptions from all of those areas of life on what will make us happy. And so they teach us just as much about how to be as they do about how not to be. And so it's kind of like I listened to a few of the episodes right before this, and episode 140 on soft cocks. It's like, be a man, have a rock hard cock, and maintain it, damn it. Otherwise, you're not a man. So that's social and cultural conditioning. That's fucking bullshit. And so we learn that in order to be a man, I have to have a rock hard cock and I have to maintain it. We learn that sex is dick and vagina. We learn that we learn all kinds of sex is bad, and we carry that around. And one that I was carrying around from my cultural conditioning was the American dream. So I lived what I call a robot life up until that 28 years old point in my life, that conversation with my mom, where I went to college because that's what you do after high school. No one in my family went to college. I majored in business because that's what you do. You don't major in art or dance. If I had been being myself, I don't know if I would have gone to college. And if I did go to college, I would have majored in art and dance. And I majored in business, and then I pursued the American dream. I worked my way up the corporate ladder in just a year and a half. I worked my way to a 6-figure executive level in the male-dominated industry of aerospace and defense. Woo! I'm so amazing because culture tells me. But I look around at my house at all of the matching throw pillows and curtains and the red KitchenAid mixer on the counter and go, oh, and partner and the 3-bedroom home with a den with 3 cars, and go, why am I so fucking unhappy? I don't understand. And what I've grown to know since then is that I wasn't connected to my actual needs, wants, and desires. I didn't know what they actually were. So most issues with couples that I find when I work with couples, when one or the other is saying, he can't be pleased, she can't be pleased, they're impossible to please, it's because they're asking for things and being given them, whether it be in sex, whether it be for dinner, whether it be the car they want. And they're being given them, but that's not fulfilling because it's not what they actually fucking want. It's what the television commercial told them. It's what their mom said that they would be like when they're a wife or a husband or a partner. And so, long-winded answer, fundamentally, we are not in touch with ourselves. We don't know what we want, and we don't give ourselves permission when we do get that inkling of what we do want. And one very personal last example would be, this is a bit scary for me to say. I might tear up a bit. This is me choosing to come out in a very public way. My brother is gay. And for my Catholic family and my extended evangelistic Bible knowing extended family, one gay person in our family was enough. We didn't need more sexual issues. Well, I got pregnant when I was 21. I didn't tell anyone. My family that's listening to this right now will not have known this, but I didn't tell anyone. I told my gay brother, and that's it. And then I had an abortion. And then right now at 37, I am questioning my pronouns, and I might be they, them, and not she, her. So these are all like really deep. When we talk about our needs being met, it's like, I want good sex, but deep foundational things that have to do with our identity are denied because of these prescriptions from family, religion, culture, and we subscribe to them consciously or unconsciously.
I really deeply appreciate your vulnerable share there, and I know how scary it is to share, well, especially on a podcast where you have 50 to 60,000 people a week listening to something. And I know that it is inspiring. I can speak for myself, and April will probably agree too. Just hearing someone speak about the things that we are told we are not supposed to talk about, feel, share, whether it's within our own families or publicly, it helps me to share those parts of myself. I've shared on the podcast many times about having an abortion. I've received a little bit, only maybe one or two messages of some hate mail around it, and knowing that that's their own stuff. And I continue to share those parts of myself because I know that that's part of my work. I'm not, on my soapbox saying everyone should do this. I'm saying, I'm human, and I have these parts of myself that are really hard and painful and are part of my experience. And so I really, I really appreciate that. And I just, as you speak, I kind of fall in love with you more. I'm sure April's doing the same over there. We both do that. We're just like, and then when we get off the call with you, we'll be like, oh my God, she's so amazing. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just really value that.
To bring that full circle, to seal it up, I didn't get my needs met in that moment because of religious and familial conditioning, and also cultural. I wanted to carry the baby and have an open adoption, but I couldn't. It would be such a disgrace to my family, a disgrace to me, embarrassing to everyone. I mean, these were the stories in my head, and those were all the fucking subscriptions that I was carrying. Those weren't my genuine needs, wants, and desires. And this is what I'm talking about. We hear these things in our head, and it's our voice in our head, and we think it's us, but it's coming from other places. And that's what I really love to work on with people, is identifying and becoming conscious of what you're subscribing to that you don't even realize.
Mm-hmm. And I think that brings me to my next question, which is what you just shared, kind of a way to do this and the work that you do with people. But how did you personally, and how can other folks discover their own needs and desires?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a million ways, and it's going to be different for every person. A basic structure for me was, I spent years trying. Like I said, I read all of the books, all of the self-pleasure books, all of the, here's how you orgasm books, but I didn't implement it. So we get stuck. I'll focus on myself. You asked me, what was my journey? I intellectualized a bunch of shit and didn't actually embody it or put it to practice. Then my mom was on her deathbed and I was like, oh my God, I got to find out how, like, what's the key to orgasm? Maybe my mom can tell me. And then I received her permission, which it took about 2 years for me to give myself my permission. And then I really started pursuing in an embodied way all of this information. And it's actually really awesome because episode 126 with Jaya, everyone listened to that. It wasn't until I discovered the erotic blueprints that I was given permission to be exactly who I am as a unique erotic being. That I found that I'm not broken and there's nothing to fix. And I knew how to expand and grow and pursue my eroticism in a way that fed and fulfilled me instead of followed the prescriptions of a sexy woman loves roses, candlelight, satin, and romantic dinners. And I would try those things and I wasn't turned on. It didn't juice me up. It didn't make me feel aroused. It didn't make me want my partners. She's impossible to please was a very common remark from my long-term. I had serial monogamy, tons of relationships, and I was always impossible to please. So I found the erotic blueprints, and that showed me that nothing's wrong. I just have a different arousal type than the stereotype of a female. And then through that, I got immersed in sex positive community, which I think is huge. I find that for my clients, when we come into community instead of them with just me, they start to open their mind. I refer them to things like Shameless Sex Podcast so that it can normalize. So normalization of talking about sex, exploring sexuality, questioning our prescriptions. And then I became a certified erotic blueprint coach. And I have forthcoming sexological bodywork certification and queer competency certification. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
I resonated so much when you talked about the being hard to please human. I have definitely had that against me almost. I always think it's a challenge for people, and it's identifying my own needs. I've never wanted the diamond ring and the white wedding dress and to walk down the aisle with someone. And although I was married, I eloped, and there were a lot of other reasons. Yes, there was a lot of love there. I never identified with a traditional thought process of like a Western wedding and a white picket fence. And I always thought something was wrong with me, or because I endured so much familial travesties between my parents and their relationships, I thought that I was just fucked up and broken, and that perhaps I don't identify with like being a total straight human. I identify probably more as a pansexual or heteroflexible, and it's also difficult for people to understand and value that. And this podcast has been such a powerful tool to let people know that it's okay to be you. And the work that you're doing, I was teared up and getting goosebumps several times because it's such important work. And I'm so thankful that you're on this show with us. And anyway, what about a question? How about a question for you?
So if I could jump in, April, it's actually beautiful what you just shared. And it was you sharing yourself, your essence, your heart, and your identity, and then rushing right out of it because it's vulnerable. And what I would love is for everybody listening and for the three of us to just be like, oh, thank you so much for sharing, April, and give just like a little or a huge one, but it's a podcast, so we'll give a little piece of space just to like recognize how big of a deal it is to be seen, felt, heard, and have those chills. That's one indication you know you're onto something that's right for you. If you're contracting or not feeling chills, that's one indication it might not be right for you. So there's a little tip on how to know when you're in subscription or reality for your essence.
Well, also, I'm sure our listeners want to hear more from you because this is our interview portion. That's why I was like, let's get to it.
Well, I want to comment on just I like, so I did the Hakomi training, a 2-year holistic psychotherapy training, and we call that the Nourishment Barrier. In Hakomi is April and I both resonate with this very much so, because we both talk about how we do like the caretaker caregiver thing, and part of that, and you too, right? And so part of that is like to take a moment to highlight this vulnerable moment of April taking this in and feeling this really powerful thing, but also this vulnerable moment of allowing you then to take in the recognition here of how she's seeing you. It's all scary. It's all really scary. And so I just love that actually happened in like real time on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're talking about.
It's beautiful, and people are starving for connection right now. And this was a moment of connection that we can have virtually. And I would love to come back on and talk about authentic relating and connection, and how people can have more of that in this isolation period. But to stay on topic for today,
100%.
Ask something.
Well, you already mentioned kind of one tip about eliminating. I love that you call it the subscriptions and the prescriptions, by the way, because we think about these archetypes that we sometimes don't even realize are these like the maps of our lives or the paradigms that we're living in. And so the folks that listen to our show love the tips and the hacks and kind of the Cliff's notes and the bullet points. And so that kind of brings me to the next question of the actual tips for how our listeners and folks out there can speak up for their needs and desires, I know for themselves and also with their lovers and partners.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I want to say prescriptions will never go away. The subscriptions is what you can pay attention to, become conscious of, and make conscious choices around. So like I said, I've totally been there. I was the perfect student, perfect employee, the top performer, chasing the American dream, all of that. So it's to recognize, step one, recognize where you're subscribing to the prescriptions of religion, family, culture, society. Secondly, discover and uncover what's conscious and what's unconscious that you're subscribing to. And then from there, make a choice and give yourself permission. So recognize, discover, make a choice, and give yourself permission from you to you. My mom's was powerful, but it didn't become fully powerful until I gave myself permission from the inside out to hold that space for myself. And that's what I do now, is hold immaculate space for you to discover your own answers, your choices. And then what do we do after that? A lot of that stage of choice and permission can look like temper tantrums, sad crying fits for 2 weeks, regret, grief. All of the grief stages occur during this one. It's not necessarily pretty at first. And then when the empowerment finally comes and the imposter syndrome subsides and you decide that you're worth it, it can be very beautiful on the other end. So my clients say, this is the rite of passage into adulthood I never received, AKA the rite of passage into thinking and knowing for myself, no longer being told. And so then the next step is like, now what? Do you need guidance? Do you need mentorship? Do you need practical and applicable actions for embodiment and carrying these new subscriptions out in your life? You need a cheerleader. So getting support. And then finally, integration, maintenance, personal responsibility, and accountability, because it's so easy to slip back into that quote unquote safety, which is actually ultimately not safe at all. And if you're metaphysical or woo-woo at all, you'll know that there's theories about this is how we get cancer, this is how we get chronic diseases, this is how we die sooner than we would if we had been being ourselves. So that's basically what the journey looks like in the steps, and that's what I guide my clients through. And I want to say, when you do it with me, it includes lots and lots of fun, play, and discovery. It doesn't have to be like dredging through the trenches all the time. And putting yourself with a positive mentor and community is huge. I highly recommend that support.
Okay, time for a quick break. This podcast is made possible by omgyes.com. OMGS is a research-based online program that teaches you all about how to pleasure the pussy. OMGS studied thousands of vulva owners to find out how they orgasm and then made tasteful and inspiring short videos to show you techniques on how to pleasure yourself or another vulva. I've been recommending OMGS to my clients for years and it's changed their lives.
So for all you vulva owners or vulva lovers out there who may already be having good orgasms and you want to take it to the next level, or perhaps you want to explore more variety in your playtime, OMGS will have something just for you. With 2 seasons, one all about internal and the other all about external techniques, it's better than any book or DVD money can buy. To learn more, visit omgyes.com/shameless. Our listeners get $5 off. Check it out.
This podcast was also made possible by Uberlube. It's a luxurious silicone lubricant great for all kinds of sex. It's less likely to throw off the pH than most other lubes, and there are hundreds of doctors who recommend Uberlube to their patients, whether they want to make their hot sex even hotter or for folks who are experiencing dryness. You never knew lube could be this good.
So whether you're an avid lube lover or you've never used lube before, Uberlube is right for you. It has no flavor, no scent, and feels absolutely amazing on the body. Uberlube has endless uses. I use it to tame my hair frizzies, to prevent chafing, and I even put some in my mouth right before an oral sex session, and it totally ups my blowjob game. Oh, and the bottle, it's gorgeous. It's totally discreet and looks more like a beautiful cosmetic product, so you can even leave it on your nightstand shamelessly.
To learn why we think it's the best lube on the planet, check out uberlube.com. Use code SHAMELESSSEX and you get 10% off and free shipping. That's uberlube.com. Go check it out. And now back to the show.
And so is the work that you're doing with folks, I have 2 questions, maybe it's 3. Is it, because what you spoke to, sexuality is part of it. I'm sure it goes beyond sexuality. Is there actual more like life coachy, just all aspects of their lives that they're not speaking up their needs? I'll start with that question. I'll go to the second one after. Is it, so it's other parts of their lives as well?
This is a perfect segue. I said earlier that I came up with this amazing theory on Turnon and arousal.
That was my next question.
So, perfect. Oh, cool. Well, let's sew it all together because it's all the same. Okay. I was not connected to my Turnon arousal. I was taught to shut it off as soon as it started coming on by the covering of my eyes. When men would hit on me and my mom out in public, she would say, "Don't give them what they want." So it essentially gave me it wasn't giving me what I wanted, which was to feel that percolation in my soul, that effervescence of my core erotic essence. And so your eroticism is your eros. It is who you are at the very core. So once you are connected to your turn-on and your arousal, that's actually yours, not the things we're told we should be turned on by, but the ones that actually are, you're turned on and aroused all over in life. So we work in your job, your career, your relationship, your communication, the types of activities you choose to spend your free time doing, the food that you eat. I mean, everything's affected. So it is an all-encompassing work that we do together. And I think that's why people say it's a rite of passage into adulthood, like the fullness of being a human, that we never got to experience or have in our lives. So in a nutshell, Turnon and arousal for me is the light that it's a compass that shines. Let me start over. Turnon and arousal is a compass that shines a light in the direction of that which fulfills you and makes life worth living. So when you're in touch with that compass and that light, you say yes to more things that are actually a yes. You say no to more things that are actually a no. And you identify when you're not sure and you ask for space. You claim space and time to make up your mind for your well-being. So yes, all the things.
I love that, and I 100% agree with you. And so I guess I want to reiterate that is you're saying that essentially your eros, your sexuality, essentially it kind of works at the core, and everything is related. And by going in and working on this part, you're actually going and working on healing all these other parts of yourself. So my additional question to that, if that's true, do you also feel like working on the other parts of yourself in turn can heal your sexuality? They go both ways in terms of the healing and the work.
That's a really interesting question. On my current website, which I don't know which version will be up when this airs, I have a pie chart of well-being, and we focus on physical, psychological, emotional, and basically everything except for eroticism. I mean, maybe I'm talking to the wrong people. You're like, you are who you are, so maybe you do. But most people focus on yoga and eating right and spirituality and all of these things, and they leave out eroticism. And I can say for my personal journey, until I consciously brought eroticism into that mix to make it a complete pie, no, I wasn't arriving. It wasn't affecting my eroticism. I wasn't awakening to who I truly am at the core, my eros. And I'm not going to say that that's the same for everyone, because, like, for instance, through Kundalini, not even Kundalini yoga, just yoga or energetic sex, somebody might have a Kundalini awakening, and that really connects them to the core essence of the energetics of who they are. So I'll say for me, working on everything else, no, it did not get me in touch with my eros, with my eroticism. Mm-hmm. For others, it totally could.
I identify as someone that is not an erotic being. I want to channel that, and I do initiate some of those practices from folks that are on the show, and it's something that I come to terms with. I'm not this super sensual, sexy human until I really begin to tap into it and get out of my head and start to just focus on, okay, this person that can put out my actual desires. But it is a practice like anything else. And I'm so playful and kind of like, Amy has seen me for so many years now. I'm like a total dorky weirdo, I'm like super awkward. And so that's why it's hard for me sometimes.
She's not awkward, by the way. That's not my perception of her. She's awesome and owns it, and she's playful, but that's I get your perception.
But when I'm trying to be sexy, when we've done the pole dancing class,
it's pretty sexy. It's not awkward. It's fucking
so
hot.
Funny though. I'm walking around. I'm like, okay. And it just I just feel so funny, but not that has to be erotic. Those are two separate things. I really felt into what you were saying about the parts being separate, because I do all that other stuff too, and it still doesn't affect my true erotic being, right? And I'm a pretty open book when it comes to what I would try in the bedroom, and it's something that I really do want to spend some more time and work on. Anyway, I think that you would be just such an amazing person to work with. You encompass all of these. It's like a holistic approach, right? It starts from the ground up, and which brings me to the last question, which I'm devastated. I don't want you to go. Actually,
she's coming back. We're bringing her back.
You have to come back. I'm like, how long? Can we ask you 50 more questions? So, if folks out there want to work with you and find you, can you let them know social and your all of the things, how to find Monica Jayne?
Yeah, of course. I do want to make a quick remark on what you just said before I do that, which is all these tips, tricks, and techniques are outside of you. All of these practices are outside of you. And unless you're I used to teach a yoga class called Yoga from the Inside Out. So unless it's coming from inside of you outward, instead of you trying to duplicate, replicate, or make something look the way you're being taught it should from the outside inward, that latter example is robotic. It's programming. It's subscriptions. And the former, coming from the inside outward, is what has you arrive at you. None of this stuff outside of you is going to have you arrive at you. So one thing I didn't mention is I have over 5,000 hours in receiving continuing education and teaching yoga theory and philosophy and yoga asana, including at accredited collegiate institutions. And I was doing that majorly from the outside in. That was like a 4-year stint 10 years ago. And now today, I finally get it because I'm coming from my core. I'm living from the inside outward rather than grab, program. Put this disc here, put this tip here, put this trick here, put this subscription there. Ooh, now I'm complete. It just doesn't work that way. So if you are someone who knows that there's more to life, there's more to you, and you've spent months or probably years trying to live that, and you haven't been able to yet, fully and completely, you know there's more. I am a guide that can help whack the weeds so you can find that inner core and live from the inside outward. And so if you want to find me, you can go on Facebook. It's /monica.jayne.me. On Instagram, I recommend Facebook. I'm much more active there. I'm the upper age group, the borderline millennial and whatever was before that. So I'm more of a Facebooker than an Instagrammer. On Instagram, you'll find me at Miss, MISS, Monica, MONICA, Jayne, JAYNE. That's important. So at Miss Monica Jayne. And then my website is monicajayne.com. And if you want some fun games and bonuses, go to monicajayne.com/more. That is my landing page for anytime I speak publicly. I have no idea what will be on there when you come on there, or when this goes live, or when you're listening to this podcast, but there are prizes for you. And what I'm feeling from recording this, is I want to do a multi-part series on those steps of how do you speak up for your needs and desires. So maybe I'll have a free video series on there for you. But there's lots of goodies on there, lots of things to choose from, because my erotic blueprint is shapeshifter, highly energetic. So I like surprises, tease, and anticipation, as well as all of the things. I have to have all of the things all of the time. Otherwise, I am not fulfilled. So I want to give you all of the things all of the time. Oh, and so something that's always monicajayne/more, monicajayne.com/more, is a self-expression discovery session. And this is something that it's a session where we spend about an hour really looking at from where you've come and that more that you see for yourself that just isn't happening yet, and how you might get there. And so this is a call for you if you're ready to put in the time, effort, and energy and investment into that kind of work. It's not for everyone, and I will be able to help guide you toward other resources if a journey with me isn't, the one for you right now. But if you've resonated, if you've gotten the goosebumps like April was talking about during this call, please do fill out that form for the self-expression discovery session, complimentary.
I love that you call yourself a guide as well as rather than a coach. I love that because it's someone that is going to, with a coach, you feel like they're like, all right, this is what you have to do. Listen up. Here you go. Here's the platform. Breaker. I don't know what a coach would say, but that's what I do. A guide, I feel like someone that's going to gently massage me in the way that I need to go, which sometimes is more helpful, and you can accept it. And this was an absolute joy of an episode, Monica Jayne, and thank you for sharing your wisdom and your beautiful, powerful messages and tips to us and to our listeners. And we will definitely have you back on the show whenever you are free. We we have more free time lately because of this quarantine life. So I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy and sexy and embracing this time. I know that I am doing my best, and it sounds like you are as well. So now's the time to do the work.
Yeah. I was just going to say this is the perfect time because you're in your own cocoon. You have less prescriptions flying at your face than ever before. You're not around the people that you think you need to be a certain way when you're around them, like your boss or your coworkers or the bar you go to or whatever. And so my invitation, my motto, my slogan is dare to be unabashedly you. And some people don't know what unabashed means. It means unashamed, shameless. And so when I saw the Shameless Sex podcast, I was like, excuse me, knock, knock. We need to talk because it's time. It's time for all of us to rise up and dare to be unabashedly ourselves in every way, in every aspect. And that's one promise of working with me is be able to show up, speak up, no matter what context you find yourself in, feel confident, grounded, and founded in what it is that you are and what you have to offer to this world.
I love that so much. And to all of our unabashedly amazing shameless sex revolutionaries, we love you so much. Remember, you probably are drinking wine. I mean, if you are or if you're not, we have Margins wine that Amy and I love. We're huge fans. It's from Santa Cruz. Beautiful boutique wine. Check it out. Go to marginswine.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our website for some discount codes. You save money. Right now is a good time to save money. And it can be delivered. So check it out. We will see you all next Tuesday and Friday. I love you. Amy loves you too. Monica Jayne, we love you. All right. Ciao for now.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.